You say slow down. I don't like to move too fast. It drowns the truth with things that are not real, and I really want us to.
This is part 9 of the Craftsman Emerson Gen 2 Set Rebuild Series. If you haven't seen part 8, click the link at the top of the screen. In this video, we will be polishing the columns. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff, and welcome to my shop. We got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Welcome back everybody. After my month-long hiatus, you've probably been wondering what the heck I was up to. Well, one of the things that I've done, and if you see my previous videos, I usually polish the columns using what I call a poor man's lathe, which is basically just a drill and some casters, and you're looking at one right now from a previous rebuild. One of the problems with this setup is that it's very wonky, and if you don't have the column set up just right, it bounces all over the place, and it's just a pain to work with. But I do this, and I have been doing this, so that somebody that doesn't have the materials and tools that I've got can still polish a column using this method. Well, FrankLee built a lathe, basically, and posted some pics and some videos over on the Garage Journal forum. And I really like what he did here. So I came up with my own take on this. And over my break, I built this. So basically, we're using strut, and I've got an old shaft on one end and a chuck. I'm using a 1 horsepower 1725 motor. I started out with a 1/2 horsepower, but it wasn't powerful enough to keep turning the lathe when I was sanding, so I had to step it up to a 1 horsepower. And at the end on the left, you'll see it's an old spindle out of a drill press. So this shaft is a 5/8 and the spindle is 5/8. And I've got a woodworking chuck down on the left side and a regular metal lathe chuck, I guess, on the right. And I may do a video on how I built this thing and its construction and all that at a later point, but for now, basically this is what I'm going to be using to polish columns moving forward. So what you're seeing here is column A being dry sanded, and I'm dry sanding it with 80 grit, then 120 grit, 150 grit, 220, and then 320. Basically, I'm going all the way down the column and then coming all the way back up. And this is my typical dry sand method and the process I use. I've sped this footage up. I'm actually not moving as fast as you're seeing, but we'd be here for 3 hours if I ran it at regular speed. So there's nothing really crazy about this. I mean, I think FrankLee just uses 400 grit and then maybe 200 and then 400, and then he uses like a 3M pad and calls it a day. And these columns came on the drill presses with like a satin finish to them. They weren't polished, but I like polishing them. I like getting a near chrome finish on them. So after we dry sand, then we wet sand. And for wet sanding, I use 400 and then 600 and then 800 and then 1,000 grit. And I'm constantly wetting the sandpaper throughout the process. And between each grit, I'm going to wipe down the column and get the previous grit off of the column. And that's really important if you're going to wet sand. Because if you don't do that and you step up in grit, you're just fighting with the old sandpaper that left grit on the column, if that makes sense. So the bottom line is, with wet sanding, you need to keep it as wet as possible, and you need to rinse between each grit. And you can see how, look at the floor, see how messy this gets. And I've got a piece of plastic that I've covered the wood board that this lathe is basically mounted on. And I may end up doing some adaptation to my my lathe setup here. One, I want to put an on-off switch over where the drive motor and pulley are, rather than having to reach behind me and turn it on and off with the surge protector that I have it plugged into. So a switch on the lathe itself would help. And I may end up shellacking the board that's on there. I'd rather use metal than wood for the mounting surface, but I don't have, a 10-foot long piece of metal right now, so it is what it is. After we wet sand, then we're going to polish it with this Mother's Mag and aluminum polish. And you want to rinse and then dry off the column before you apply this. And you're just going to smear it on. I'm just using an old t-shirt. And then we're going to buff it off with a ShamWow, of all things. I found that they work really good, and they're disposable and they're cheap. So, made in Germany and blah, blah, blah. But I'll usually go up and down once on the column and then come back with a final pass with the ShamWow, just to get all that polish off of there. And when it's done, you've got that near chrome finish on there if you did everything right and the column's not pitted or something like that. And then we apply some paste wax. So I still have, I don't know, 3/4 of a can, maybe half a can of Johnson's paste wax. They don't make it anymore, which is a travesty. So really, any paste wax that has like a carbonuba in it, it would be fine. And basically, you're just creating a barrier coating that's going to go on the column that's going to keep it from or inhibit the rust. And that column is done. So here we are with column B, and I'm actually going to show the setup because somebody's going to ask the question. So yeah. So down here at the end closest to the camera where we have the wood lathe chuck, I am marking where the seam is on the inside of the column. So these columns were cold rolled, I believe. They've got a weld seam down the center. And the seam, it really isn't visible from the outside, but from the inside, I need to know where that seam is, because if I place the jaws of this chuck where the seam is, then the column's not going to be centered, if that makes sense. Because that seam sticks out or sticks up inside the column. It protrudes, if you will, probably about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more, 3/16 of an inch. And that's enough to cause this thing to get all wobbly. So you just mark where the seam is, and then you make sure that that area is going to sit between the jaws. And these are both these chucks are a 4-jaw chuck. They're 3 inches in diameter. I got them off of Amazon. I think this one down here, the wood lathe one, is probably like $30. And the metal lathe one up near the top is probably, I don't know, $100 maybe. 70, 80, maybe $100. I don't recall. And if I end up doing a video on how I constructed this contraption and what I used and everything, I'll put links for all of that stuff later on after we complete this series. But this whole setup was not cheap. If you've got, strut laying around and uh, pillow blocks and all that kind of stuff, then okay, fine. But I didn't have any of that laying around, so I had to buy just about everything for this thing. Really, the only thing I had on hand was the spindle that I'm using down on this end as a shaft, and I had it on hand because it's bent. So using it for this was no issue. But the shaft on the other end, I actually bought that from McMaster Carr. And then on each shaft, I've got a spindle adapter, and it's designed for the shopsmith, and it converts the 5/8 shaft to a 1" by 8 TPI thread. And then both of these chucks, well, there's a mounting plate between the metal lathe chuck that the metal lathe chuck mounts to, and then the mounting plate and then the wood lathe chuck both have the 1" by 8 TPI thread. So it's all threaded together. Luckily, there are set screws that actually screw them down to the thread as well. Otherwise, this whole thing might come undone while it's spinning. But I've got it running in a counterclockwise direction. I can't remember now. And so it's tightening constantly down on the metal lathe chuck side. Now, down here on the wood lathe side, it would be loosening, I guess, if you were to apply a lot of force to the column. But there's no direction that the metal or the wood lathe chuck could go except towards the column. It can't move any further away, so it's not going to come apart because I screw these little pieces of strut down here down. And that's what I'm doing right now that the pillow blocks are mounted to. So I got the pillow blocks off of Amazon as well. They're just some cheap 5/8 internal diameter pillow blocks. So basically this wood lathe chuck that's down here at this end of the camera is basically tailstock. So you've got the business end of this lathe, if you will, at that furthest point from the camera. And the tailstock is this end down here. Not crazy about how this wood lathe chuck actually tightens down, but both the chucks are self-centering. And like I said, they're 4 jaws. Now, the reason why I used a metal lathe chuck at the other end, the end I'm working at right now, is because the wood lathe chuck jaws only protrude, I don't know, 1/2 inch maybe at most. I think it's less than 1/2 inch into the column, and they I can't tighten them down enough that the column won't slip on them. Whereas that metal lathe chuck, it's got a lot more meat on the jaws to bite on the inside of the column, and I can tighten it down much better. I mean, that's what it's intended for. This wood lathe chuck is not intended for this. So I think FrankLee uses the wood lathe chuck where I've got the metal lathe chuck, and then he uses inline skate roller wheels down at the tailstock end. And I originally bought everything to basically rebuild what he's got going But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? I think if we just do kind of the same thing that we did on one end, we do it on the other end and just make that the tailstock, then I can have the entire column exposed and be able to polish it without having to flip it later on, because there would be wheels holding it in place down here at this end, acting as casters. So this worked out really well. There's a lot less vibration here with the shorter column B, that we're dry sanding now, than we had with column A, because column A is the taller column. I think it's 69 inches, I think. I can't remember now. But the Craftsman changed the column sizes on the 150s and everything after that. And they put a column that's, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches shorter. And I think the reason why I was getting vibrations is because I had that tailstock down here at this end mounted further past where I have the tool stand that all this is mounted on. I got a tool stand on each end. And I think we were sitting on top of the tool stand or past the tool stand. And I think that's what was causing the vibration. So I'm going to do some tweaking to this thing and get it a little bit more solid. But for right now, it's doing exactly what I needed it to do. And it's a very safe setup. It's not going to come apart and send a column flying across the room. And I've got this column slowed down quite a bit. I think I'm running a 2-inch in diameter pulley on the motor, and then a 5-inch pulley on the shaft, which slows at 1725 RPMs down to 690 RPMs. So right at 700 RPMs, which 600 is the sweet spot, I think, for sanding and polishing. But those are the pulleys that I had on hand or purchased and had it in my brain that this is the way we're going to do this. So I think 690 RPM is just fine. It's safe. And if this column decided to go flying, it ain't going to go very far. Now you leave a chuck key inside one of those chucks at 690 RPMs, you'll definitely see that happen. I mean, that's definitely dangerous, which is why you'll see one of the first things that I learned about working on lathes in general, and I don't know a whole lot about them. I am not a machinist or anything like that. I just play around. But one of the first things I learned about working on lathes was you never leave the chuck key inside the chuck. So you stick it in, adjust the chuck, pull it back out. And do not ever just leave it sitting in the chuck. So, yeah. And I have a fear for all things moving, so, especially at high rates of speed. So until I'm comfortable with something, I tend to exercise a lot of caution. So I'm somebody I'm sure is going to mention the water on the floor and the power cord sitting on the floor as well. And you can see off to the bottom right-hand corner there where the motor is plugged into the extension cord, and that is off the ground. And I will be coming up with a better plan for that later on. So like I said, there's some tweaks that I'll be making, but ultimately, this is going to be the setup I'm moving forward. Now I got to find a place to put it in my shop. Anyways, column B is now done. And this is going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you got any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. Happy 250th birthday, America. So proud of my country. And hopefully we can win that World Cup. That would be awesome. In the next video, we will be wire wheeling some stuff. So as always, I appreciate the support. I'm glad to be back, and I will see you next time.